Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by Holly Shan to have a look at Fantasy Football Hub's AI team. And Holly, it's not been a good week for the AI team. Now, importantly, we said this at the start of the season. We will be here every game week, come rain or shine. And yeah, last week it was pretty stormy, is all I can say. Just not the best week, was it?
Yeah, another week where we've had Haaland and captained Haaland and didn't have Mo Salah and didn't have him captained. And the swing in the results of those two players over the last 4 game weeks has just been ridiculous. Their underlying numbers are basically on a par, but their output has been miles apart. And, Manchester City, we expect that they're not going to win every game in a season, but for them to lose 3 on the bounce, nobody was predicting that going into this run of games, were they?
No, it's crazy. We were just talking off camera about the difference in points between Haaland and Salah over the last 3 game weeks. It's 56 points if you had either one captained. And most teams have either Haaland or Salah. And then on top of that as well, if you did sell Haaland and you got in a budget forward, the budget forwards have been doing very well. If you had the likes of Cunha in there, comparing him to a Rodgers or a Semenyo, who would have been playing, in the other slot, that's like another sort of 30-point difference roughly. So it's slightly less, but it's been a big swing. It's something like an 80-point difference, and the AI team is currently on 655 points. Holly and I are similar. We're on about 725, 735 points. So 70 to 80 points more than the AI team. And you can see our ranks on screen for our personal teams. So that has kind of been the difference. Also slightly unlucky, I would say, Isak this week. I think he would have been on every single free hit team. Yeah, Flecken got a clean sheet. Johnson got a goal off the bench, which you could say is fortunate as well, to be fair. But yeah, the main thing is the Haaland versus Salah swing. And I'd be very interested to see what the AI recommends this week for its potential transfers. Whether now might be the week to do that switch. What do you reckon? What do you reckon, Holly? Do you think now is the week if you're on Haaland?
Yeah, I think so. I think Liverpool away, it's the perfect fixture to be the exit point. I think the only reason why the AI team hasn't made the move sooner is that we've had quite a lot of injuries that we've had to firefight in recent weeks. And maybe the optimal move was Haaland to Salah for game week 12, but we only had 1 free transfer. So that's why we rolled. But going into game week 13, we do have 2 free transfers now. The AI doesn't tend to give a recommendation to take a hit. Obviously, you can now customize your AI transfers and force that if you want to be more of a riskier manager, but it's not the play that it tends to go with week on week. So having those 2 free transfers are really going to be important. And we've got Semenyo suspended now as well, just to add to the troubles of the team.
Yeah, it's not looking great, but with a couple of transfers in the bank, yeah, all can be sort of resolved, I imagine. This is the team on screen. And as always, guys, if you want to get your own team rated, like you can see with the AI team, then you can do so for free. Link in the description. That will always be free. If you then want to go on and get your recommended transfers like we're going to see for the AI team later on in the video, then the best time to sign up is right now. Currently a 7-day free trial. So take advantage of that if you really want to know what's going on for your team this week and where you could potentially go with it. Before we look at the recommendations from the AI, what do you think about the team in general, just how it's looking? Obviously, Haaland is still in there. We'll see if that changes. But you mentioned some flags. Semenyo's suspension. It's not looking awful.
No, and the thing is, because we've got 8 attackers, we can ride out these suspensions. And I think it's quite important going into the next month with the amount of fixtures that we've got, that you have got players to come off your bench, at least having that first good sub. You look at the likes of Chris Wood, who's again disappointed over the last couple of game weeks. He's got Ipswich at home this week. My other concern in the side is Brennan Johnson, because it looks like with Bentancur out, Postecoglou's kind of going with a little bit of a different setup to get Maddison in the 10. Kulusevski's in great form, so he's moved on to the right wing, and it's forced Johnson out of the team now. But yeah, I mean, like Gabriel, we got a clean sheet out of him, which is great. And it's been a long time coming, that Arsenal clean sheet. So there's players that are in good form and or have good fixtures still in the side. So it's not like I'm not too worried when I go in and set the team each week and think, there's points to be had here.
Yeah, completely agree. I think as well, like someone like Gvardiol, who's been really good for this team, I've talked about it in other videos this week, where it doesn't have the best fixture this week, but from next week, I'm looking at someone like him. I mean, he's so attacking, and we know how well he can do for attacking returns. So yeah, the one thing I would say is the bench is a little bit light. I mean, it has been throughout the entire. I mean, we've had 8 attackers for a long time now, but Faz and Greaves, they don't fill me with confidence. But then again, we're not really going to them that often. But yeah, I don't know what you think about that going through this Christmas period. It seems a little light.
Yeah, I mean, they're both starters when they're fit. So, I mean, hopefully Greaves wins his place back if he's coming back fit this week. Ipswich are a side that, you know, they've got their defensive struggles, of course, but they are putting in some performances and they don't fear anyone. So you never know when, you know, these players are going to pop up and do something. Potentially a new manager bounce for Leicester now as well. Maybe the AI will make a transfer in a few weeks' time to beef up the bench, especially if we do get funds out of Haaland fairly soon.
Well, let's move on to it. Let's have a look at the recommendations for this team. And well, they're pretty strong. They are pretty strong. I say they're pretty straightforward, to be honest, but they just look really good. I mean, it's probably the 2 form players in the league right now, you could argue.
Yeah, absolutely. When I logged in and I saw that these were the moves, I felt relieved. I thought, finally, we're getting Salah back. Haaland's gone, and we're getting Cunha in the process, and we're selling a player who is now looking like a weak link in the attack as well. So, yeah, it just feels right, meant to be.
These are the sort of moves that I think you would make just as a human. I think just not even looking at the points potential, you know, the predicted points, the more like sort of granular data. But it does feel good when it's backed up by AI. I think that Johnson might lose his place a little bit now. I don't know why. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this. I don't know why Postecoglou has just sort of sacrificed midfield in so many games. I think that's one of the reasons why why games have turned so quickly for them. Because, you know, when you have 5 attackers on the pitch and it's all working so well for you and everything's clicking, it's great because you can just sort of, like, I don't know, just completely dominate an opponent and really get on them and sustain attacks. But then if you lose a little bit of momentum, then that control just goes, and then you're just susceptible to counter attacks, and you lose the middle of the pitch. But when they have sort of Saar, Bissouma, whatever in there, it just looks so much more solid to me. So I do think that if I was the manager, I would continue playing the same system they played against City. I know it worked very well against City, but it's also worked in previous games as well. So yeah, I think Johnson is a great sell, and as you said, Haaland it probably is the time for him to go. And you can't really argue with the 2 players coming in. The one thing that is interesting is that it's gone for Cunha over João Pedro, and that's a decision for a lot of managers this week, which one of those to potentially go to.
Yeah, but I think with Cunha, you can kind of guarantee minutes. And while João Pedro has produced 4 goal involvements in less than 90 minutes across the last 2 game weeks, there's just so much more strength and depth in Brighton's attack, and he's not always going to be present. There's not a lot to split them on fixtures at all. But yeah, Cunha's got the minutes and he's got kind of more of the sustained form that you'd want to see.
Yeah.
We think that he might be on penalties as well, but we don't know for sure. Obviously, João Pedro is on penalties for Brighton, but the key is he has to be on the pitch, and that's not always guaranteed at the moment. So yeah, I happily buy Cunha over João Pedro at the moment. Although, to be fair, with all the price changes for Cunha, there is quite a gap between them in terms of price right now.
Well, he's now gone up by 0.2 already. There's a chance he goes up again. It's very rare to get triple rise, but there is a chance. It's only Wednesday. I mean,
Friday deadline now, don't miss it.
Friday deadline. Okay, so unlikely. João Pedro, I think, will go up again. So they're both going to roughly go up 0.2 this week. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those, Cunha, through the Christmas period, if he doesn't get injured, you know his minutes are very, very secure. Yeah, he may not play 90 every week, but he's going to play the vast majority of minutes. But I feel like, yeah, Brighton do have a lot of attackers. Just because João Pedro is class doesn't mean he's going to play every game. But there we go. Those are the recommendations. They seem very sensible. Guys, if you'd like your own, link down below. Get your AI recommended transfers by signing up to Fantasy Football Hub. Holly, what's the deal at the moment? It is the 7-day free trial, isn't it? That's the best thing we can offer. It's the Green Friday. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, Green Friday, not Black Friday, because we want green arrows. But yeah, you get a 30-day free trial.
Oh, it's 30 days.
Crazy. Yeah. So I think you get like the next 5 or 6 game weeks
what
included.
No, what the flip? Seriously, I thought it was 7 days.
Yeah, 30 days. So yeah, you can try it out for the next month.
Wow.
Get all of those game weeks over the festive period, and then if you're not enjoying it, then you can just cancel.
That's a generational discount slash offer going on there. Unbelievable. Didn't know it was that long. That's over 4 times longer than I thought it was.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, really, isn't it?
That is a no-brainer. You might as well also. This is the period to use it. This is the period, by the way, where I often struggle. This is where it's where like engaged good managers through the Christmas period, where there's a lot of deadlines back to back. You got to be on it. Make sensible moves. Tend to do very well. I often struggle. I don't know what that says about me as a manager, but this is the sort of moment where I think it is good. It's very, very good and very useful to be signed up to a website like Fantasy Football Hub just to help you out and give you some advice and tips.
You're just too busy having a good time.
Well, for me, having a good time is watching a lot of football. So yeah. I think I'm just a bad manager, to be honest with you. But maybe a little bit of that as well, Holly. Maybe. Who knows? But yeah, it's a busy period for all. But,
yeah, exactly. It's nice just to like be able to go on and sense check. Like I thought about my transfers that I wanted to make for my own team this week, then went on my AI recommended transfers and they were the same. And there's honestly no better feeling in that moment than being like, yeah, we align on this. This is the right move to be making. Especially when it involves selling Haaland. You do just need like that confidence booster because we know that he can cause the damage. Like his underlying numbers are still, as good as there have been all season. So that there are risks there.
But 2 goals in the Champions League yesterday as well. Look good. It's like it's not as if he's looking different when he's playing in the Prem or not. The chances are still falling to him. He could easily have had a hat trick at the post as well. So I don't know. It is a little bit of it is always going to be scary selling him, but I do feel like if you're not captaining him, then this is the sort of time to do it. And that has been reflected in the AI team. Okay, so here is the team with those transfers made, and it looks a lot more solid. Team rating up by 2% to 96%, and yeah, looks good. Salah and Cunha in. Now, interestingly, when I click optimize team down here, Salah becomes the captain. He has the most predicted points of any player in the entire game this week, which is interesting given that it's City at home. But, that is as it stands. That has to be the AI team's captain, right?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm quite happy to captain Salah this week. It's a home game. He always does very well against City at home. I think he's got 7 goal involvements in 7 in the Premier League at Anfield.
Wow.
Against them. So given the form that Salah's in, the form that Liverpool are in, the form that Man City are in, I think Salah will be absolutely fine in this game for the armband. Interestingly, Haaland, who's normally either first or second in the predicted points every single game week, he's 6th this week. There's 5 players that get in ahead of him, which again, adds fuel to selling. It is the perfect exit point, and Salah is the replacement if you're using those funds from Haaland.
I mean, when Chris Wood has more predicted points than Haaland, you do think that maybe it's time to let him go. I know it gets better after that, but yeah, maybe it's time to let him go. But there we go. That is the team for the upcoming game week. Now let's have a look at the general player pool and see who some picks might be to target over the next few game weeks, sorted by their predicted points. Okay, so here are the goalkeepers. Let's start with them. Let's go over them briefly. Nothing much has changed here, am I right? Over the past couple of weeks, Raya's still top.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, he has now kept a recent clean sheet because in my team, it's been painful since bringing him in on wildcard game week 6. The man in 4th place, Fraser Forster, 4.3 million.
Didn't see him there.
He's the interesting one.
Right,
and
okay.
I think Postecoglou reported today that Vicario could be out for months. So while we were maybe thinking that it could be a short-term move and a transfer that you'd have to undo in a few weeks' time, that's not looking the case. So it's an interesting price point. I mean, I'd still go with a Flecken, for example, over Forster, because Spurs, while they are a top team attacking, from a defensive perspective, I don't feel like they're any better than, any of the other sides in the Premier League right now, aside from, the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool for clean sheet potential. So it's just interesting to note that he's there.
That is interesting. And at 4.3 million, that is tempting for sure. But then you sort of look at the general, like you look at Vicario's points anyway. He's played every minute. He's kept 3 clean sheets. He has 37 points. and Flecken has 38. For example, Henderson has 43. So actually, maybe it's not like the most enticing pick, but it's whenever you see a goalkeeper from a top team,
Yeah.
or like a big six team, I suppose that is super cheap or is the backup, you do get a little bit excited, sort of like with Kelleher before.
Yeah.
But actually, in reality, is it that good a pick? Who knows? But yeah, Raya at the top, and it has to be someone to target. I know you've got him in, but this is sort of compounds the fact that the Arsenal defense is good. And as we move on to the defenders as well, there's this couple of Arsenal defenders in there. Actually, fewer than I would think. I would expect to see like a Timber in there, or I mean, Saliba's attacking threat is none now, really, isn't it? So that's probably why he's not in there. But yeah, how close is Timber to this list? He's just because he's a player that I've been looking at, and I would have expected him to be in here, but he's competing with a lot of very attacking defenders. To be fair,
Yeah,
Porra, for example, is in there. Eight Nuri.
He's not far away at all. He's
Okay.
on 18.1 predicted points.
Okay, that's close. Maybe he's one of those but we're not still not 100% sure on the minutes yet.
Yeah, he's predicted 83 minutes in every game.
Oh, that is a lot. That is a lot.
Whereas Calafiori's predicted 90.
Okay.
So I think maybe that is just enough.
Well, I mean, 83 is still high. Maybe need to see a little bit more attacking data before he'll appear in this list. Now, one name that I love to see as someone that still owns him is Trent at the top, who now doesn't have a flag, and that is encouraging.
Yeah, and I think it's the first time this season that he's been on top. It's been Gabriel a lot. It's been Vardiol a bit. Trent's always been third. We saw Robertson in that spot at some point as well. But yeah, Trent finally up there. Obviously, the fixture this week isn't great, but then beyond that, the fixtures look okay for Liverpool. And, in terms of his expected goal involvement, he's, way up there, got the assist threat as well, set pieces.
The question is with him, like, is he as attacking as he has been in previous seasons? I don't think he has. I know that the numbers are still decent, but I was just looking at his expected involvement on the tools page yesterday as someone that's still got him, and obviously I will keep him because I don't think he's a priority transfer out for me. But in the same regard, I'm not sure he's a priority transfer in. I'm not sure. Like, is there a window where you'd go for him, especially with the premium midfielders doing so well? If you've got a team of like Saka, Palmer, Salah, and then an Mbeumo or a Bruno, you don't really have the budget necessary to get up to Trent. I'm just not sure it's worth sacrificing one of those players to get to him.
Yeah, every time you look at Trent, you think that could be another premium in my midfield. And, even though a lot of managers are selling Haaland, within those moves, they're trying to get to that Palmer, Saka, Salah midfield. And the budget is tight on that. So I don't think there's a place for Trent in a lot of teams at the moment.
What about a place for Luca Dean? He's there in fourth. The biggest troll perhaps in the history of trolls.
I mean, I'm surprised it's so high. Maybe his minutes do need adjusting a little bit. It's a weird one though, because we just got to the point, hadn't we, where we trusted Dean to get consistent minutes. And he was being talked about in the community, and it was at that point that he got his first benching of the season. The threat was always there, wasn't it?
What can you do? Okay, let's move on to midfielders. The three that were just mentioned there are just quite a long way above, really. I mean, Son's there in fourth, who's sort of trying to bridge the gap between the rest and the top three, but still a decent way off. I mean, if Son wasn't there, right, and then you're just looking at Salah, Palmer, Saka compared to then Foden and Bruno, it's such a big difference.
Yeah,
7
crazy,
points in 5 weeks. That's over a point a week. It's a lot in terms of prediction, right?
Yeah, and Salah over the next 5 game weeks is the number one player to own in the game, not Haaland. We've talked about the gap for weeks. The gap is now in Salah's favour, so that is significant as well. Foden on the rise a little bit.
Okay.
I know you mentioned Son, but Kulusevski as well, up into 8th place. He's 6.3 million. He's the go-to budget player at the moment. It's worth noting that Spurs have scored more goals than any other team in the Premier League this season. And yes, you cannot predict which games they're going to get a ton of goals in because they lose at home to Ipswich and then go and thrash City away.
Yeah.
I think they are an important attack to be invested in. Most managers were Brennan Johnson owners, and as you can see with the AI team, he is being moved on, and that's justified. But just keep in the back of your mind that consistency of that Spurs attack and think, is there a way to be invested?
That's one of the reasons why I'm not looking at Solanke as any sort of issue right now as well, because as you say, in any sort of week, they can just score 3 or 4. I know it's like, obviously it's easy to say that based on the fact that they have just done that. But yeah, I think outside of that, as you said, they are the highest scoring team in the league. They beat Villa 4-1, West Ham 4-1. They've scored 4 goals in 4 separate occasions in just 12 weeks. That is pretty impressive. No other team's done that.
Yeah, I guess a lot of their attacking play has gone through their wingers, but I think as we start to see Maddison consistently in the 10, which should happen after that Man City performance, I think we will also see more of a link up between Maddison and Solanke in those central areas as well, which I think should help me as a Solanke owner like you.
Yeah, I hope so. And then let's move on to forwards then, because as you said, Haaland lower now than Salah. We haven't seen that much this season. Solanke not doing too well compared to the other players. I mean, the main thing here is just like all these players who are kind of cheaper than the midfielders that we just looked at are very, very close to them.
Yeah.
Cunha at 29.3, for example. So he would only be below Salah, Palmer, Saka, and Son in the midfielders. So it's kind of saying like maybe you have to go with 3 forwards who are a little bit cheaper. Like just looking at the value there, that does make the most sense.
Yeah, that seems the play. And to be honest, I look at this list, and other than when I get to 10th place with Jimenez, I could buy any of these players right now. Like they're all attractive options in their own right, and there's pros and cons to each one. But there's so many forwards that I want to own, which is why it's easier to go without Haaland, because it opens up that extra spot. Because they're all just so exciting at the moment. You've got Cunha's form, Chris Wood's just been so consistent. Watkins, I know Villa have been a bit up and down recently, but he was the most consistent player last season, and his numbers this season are still consistent. Solanke, cheap for the team scoring the most goals in the league at the moment. Then you've got Jackson, Chelsea's fixtures, that link up between Palmer and Jackson, doubling up on that Chelsea defence, that's justified at the moment. Wissa, great differential. You can probably justify doubling up on that Brentford attack for the home games. And then João Pedro, who's everyone's buying this week as well.
I think the one thing is, you did mention this earlier, just the fact that João Pedro is nearer the bottom of this list. Obviously, this is the top 10, but still, you might expect him to be a little bit higher, sort of competing with, it's only a few points, but nearer to the predicted points of someone like a Wood over the next 5.
But minutes again.
Minutes is a thing.
Yeah. So he's predicted to play 76 minutes. So if you was to boost that up to 90 minutes, like you're getting another 20% per game, aren't you, on there? Yeah. And that would, put him into, the category of Acuna. So it is literally just minutes. I think he's been quite fortunate in his high levels of returns from the minutes he's had in the last 2 games. But his minutes are only going to increase, you would think. But, with a midweek round coming up, it's maybe not as easy as just expecting them to build gradually through each game.
Yeah, completely agree. And it's worth saying as well that doesn't mean that he's going to play like 76 minutes and then be subbed on 76 minutes every game. It's just across I don't know this. I think this is what it is, isn't it? It's like across an average of an X number of games, you could roughly expect him to average out 76
games. And there's metrics built into the algorithm of, goal threat and assist threat. So it's kind of the goal and assist threat weighted with the minutes versus the quality of the opponent.
What's Cunha's expected minutes at? What do we have that at? If you have that to hand, just because.
90.
Yeah, there you go. That is a big thing. I know we have spoken about that, but it is a big thing. I still am not sure. I think the saving is worth it if you can get to both. I do think the saving is worth going João Pedro, but I think it's closer than perhaps some people are suggesting. But anyway, there we go. That is it for the predicted points. Is there any key player, Holly, that we might have missed out that you across the entire game that has sort of piqued your interest when looking at these numbers that we haven't mentioned yet? There might not be one, or maybe someone that you just didn't expect to be there. Perhaps like a Forster. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Forster probably was maybe the one. Oh, and in the defenders, Matty Cash in 8th place.
Yeah, I
Uh,
saw that. I saw that.
Raise some eyebrows. Because I think if I was buying a budget defender this week, I'd be buying Ain't Nori if I didn't own him already. And if I even if without Ain't Nori, I probably wouldn't be looking at Aston Villa defence. But obviously we've talked about Dean in fourth place, but Matty Cash is in there as well. 4.4 million. I think, you know, in the past he's been very good from an attacking perspective, and that's definitely going to be helping. He's in these predictions like with Dean, but there's obviously some potential there in the fixtures as well for Aston Villa that's meaning that these assets are quite highly predicted. I think
Yeah.
obviously it's Chelsea away next, which isn't the easiest, but then we've got Brentford at home and Southampton at home in game week 14 and 15.
I mean, that is a good point, because if you think about the sort of budget defenders that people have been looking to bring in over the recent weeks, or even like this week, none of them have done anything. I would argue. I mean, maybe you could say that. Actually, not. They're like, if people have gone for Lewis Hall, hasn't really done anything.
Yeah.
The Brighton defenders as well, as up to this point, haven't really done too much at all. The fixtures are good there, but there isn't really a standout sort of around about the 4.5 million mark defender that's done super well so far this entire season. So maybe it's worth punting on someone like a Matty Cash, as shown by the predicted points. I'm not sure I'd necessarily go there. I think it is just a little bit risky with Champions League and potential rotation, but the fixtures are very good. And 14, 15 is Brentford at home, Southampton at home. It's very strong.
Yeah, I think you just got to play the fixtures a little bit with like your fourth and fifth defenders. And if you're going into a game week where you've got a spare transfer and you think your third defender that you're playing is weak, that's when you need to delve in. So I don't think it's as important for defenders to look at the whole five for predicted points. They just need to have a high prediction for the weeks that you need them. So you kind of have to judge it with what personnel you've got in your defence already. Like we're having to play Vardiol this week, which probably isn't that optimal, but it's just that's the situation we're in, and we've got bigger fish to fry elsewhere in the squad.
Absolutely. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. Holly, thank you very much, as always, for taking us through the AI team, the transfers, and yeah, the best players, the top 10 players in each position over the next few game weeks. Guys, once again, Holly had to correct me there throughout the video, but I just couldn't quite believe what she was saying. 30-day free trial. Get on it. How long does that last for, Holly?
So it's for Black Friday. So you've got this week to take
Well,
advantage.
don't mess around then. What are you doing still watching this? Go and sign up if you haven't done already. I mean, if you're still watching now and you haven't signed up, I think you are a bit of a disgrace, to be honest. You really should be doing that. But yeah, this is the time to do it. 30 days. Wow. Take advantage, and we will catch you guys on the next one.